going to tell you a story tonight about my friend Pete. And unlike some of the other stories, this goes back before the time of Facebook and before the time of constant streams of information. But somehow there was still a way to get a little too much information, even the old-fashioned analog way. This all started in college, where I'd become friends with Pete. Quiet guy, just a guy you always wanted by your side at the bar, going out. Just a real stand-up guy, and he was the type of guy, and when I finally decided to leave New York after I graduated, I decided to go to Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, Boulder. And mainly because I needed to get out of the city and get away, and really mostly because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and Boulder seemed like a pretty good place for people who had no idea what they wanted to do. So I packed all my stuff. Pete drove me out to JFK Airport in his parents' Chrysler LeBaron, which he had taken the train to Hackensack the night before to pick up, even though he was going through a really hard time. Pete had been in a relationship that wasn't working out for about a year, and it pretty much started going south right around their month anniversary, and just kind of gotten worse ever since then. Pete was dating this amazingly hot girl named Liz, and they just fought all the time, and he wasn't the type of guy to talk about it, but you could hear it in your silence, even as we're driving in his car. It's the end of summer, and this car has no air conditioning, and we're headed out to the airport. We've got the windows down, and he's just chain smoking, cigarette after cigarette. He's flicking them out the window because the ashtray hasn't been emptied since like 1986, and I don't have anything to say to him. And I'm just kind of playing with the air with my hand out the window of the car, and we get to the airport, and I get this surge of guilt. I'm leaving my friend, and he gives me a hug, drops me off curbside. I hug him, and he just puts his head down, he runs back in the car, and he leaves. And I feel like I'm abandoning him. But truth be told, I had my own problems in New York. I had my own relationship difficulties, and I needed to get out of there. So I go to Boulder, and I intend to keep in touch, but Pete's not the type of guy you can really talk to on the phone. He's pretty quiet, and I get into the working 3 jobs and being out till 4 in the morning and drinking, and months and months go by with not a word. And then around 5 in the morning one night, my phone rings. We didn't have cell phones back then. That's what the phones looked like. And I'm reached over, grabbing the phone, half out of bed because the cord's too short to really reach me, and I just hear, "She's gone." And I have no idea. I have no caller ID, so I have no idea who's gone, where they've gone, who they've left. I have no idea actually where I am or what's going on. It was pitch black. And then I hear a sigh in the bed beside me, and my new girlfriend rolls over and starts snoring again, and that snaps me back to reality. And I realize where I am. I'm in bed. My girlfriend's beside me. I've just met her recently. We've gone on a little road trip together to California, and I realize, this brings me back to reality, and I realize it's Pete. It's Pete on the phone, and she's left. And the first thing I say to him is, "I'll be there this weekend." And I rearrange everything with my job. I rearrange work. I get the only flight I can get, which is this terrible 3-stop thing where I got to go through DC and get on this commuter plane. And it's a Friday midday, and I arrive at LaGuardia. They drop me off on the tarmac, and I have to walk into the terminal where I know he's waiting for me. Because back then airports were a friendlier place, and you could actually pick your friend up at the terminal. And it's that first really nice spring day in New York, just like today was, that first day where there's real warmth in the air. And I'm walking from the tarmac, and I can see the windows of the terminal, and I know he's in there waiting for me, and everybody just, it's that day where everybody's happy. I know when we get into Manhattan, everybody's gonna be out on the street, and they're gonna be partying, and it's gonna be like, everybody's have a big smile on their face. Even the baggage handler guys are like joking with each other, and I can see the attendants through the window as I'm getting closer, and their smiles don't actually look fake, they look real, and you know, I've got this new girlfriend, and I'm thinking about her more than I'm thinking about Pete. And my hair's it's a little too long like it is now. It's kind of playfully blowing in the wind, and it's this sort of magical moment. And I'm thinking about the girl, and then I see him there, just kind of staring off. He hasn't seen me yet. He's staring down the tarmac, and I go in through the gates, and he catches my eye, and he kind of sees the whole mystique I've got with the hair and the clothes that I put on from the night before when I was rushing out the door because I didn't want to leave the bed that had this girl in it, and this girl in it, and I see him, and he takes one look at me, and he says, "Could you possibly look like you're getting any more sex right now? Even your hair looks like it's getting laid." And I just give him a hug because I know what he's got to be feeling, but he's still trying to be there for me. And so we go together, we go to our favorite bar so I can console him and buy him many drinks and drown his sorrows. And because he's a quiet guy, it's several drinks in before he starts to tell me the story. He said she just left. I just woke up and she wasn't there. There was no note. Most of her stuff was still there. He said, he told me she called him from the airport later that day. I mean, her art was still hanging on the wall. Most of her underwear was still in the drawer. He even said her goddamn computer is still sitting there. She hasn't even turned it off. Like the stupid screensaver thing is still, the Microsoft window is still bouncing up. And I can't, I'm just staring at that computer and picturing her in front of it, and I can't get her out of my head. And I think I can figure out her password, he says, and I think I can figure out where she went. And I get this feeling of just ice water in my veins, because I just picture him alone at home, realizing this, and I'm like 5 beers into the evening, and I tend to get a little proclamatory when drunk, so I just look at him and I say, "Okay, here's the deal. See, there is nothing but nothing that your imagination can come up with that isn't going to be worse than the reality of this situation. You cannot go into that computer. You cannot look for her. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna wake up, we're gonna put all of her shit into boxes. We're gonna take that computer, we're gonna put it in the back of your car, we're gonna drive it to her mother's house and drop it off, and we're just gonna forget about this whole thing." And he just kind of nods, and he's personifying the cliche smoking furiously at this point. He's a mess. And I know he's gonna listen to me. I know that I'm, in all my wisdom, now that I've finally found a girlfriend, I'm his drunk savior. And we do this. We take the things in his car, and we spend a couple days together just talking, and I feel bad, but all I wanted to do was go home to my girl, which I did. And a couple weeks later, there's a knock on my door, and I push aside the window, and there's that car, and there's Pete. He'd driven all the way out to Boulder. It turns out, couldn't stop thinking about that computer, and he didn't actually pack it up with the rest of the stuff. And he went through, and he looked at the pictures of her road trip, and he found the answer to who she'd gone to be with. And who she had gone to be with was me. Oh. David.